Hey everybody, this is Jeff Kelly. You're watching Pivotal Stories, and we're here at Spring One Platform 2018. My guest is Thomas Fredell. He's the Chief Product Officer at Merrill Corp. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Glad to have you. So Merrill Corp, it's been said, is the most important company you've never heard of. So I think a good way to start would be share a little bit about the company. I understand you're in the business of essentially providing those secure environments for sharing sensitive documents, collaborating.
100% right.
And you've been around for quite a while. And been an innovator for quite a while with things like those virtual data rooms you've created. So tell us a little bit about the company, and then I'd love to get into your role and what the environment was like back when you started 2015 timeframe.
What it is really is dealing with the biggest transactions that occur in the world. So this year we'll do over 10,000 of the world's largest M&A transactions, which means that literally billions of dollars are exchanging hands based on the transactions that are really done in a way that's connected through our platform. So what we do is, if there's a company that's looking to be sold, typically we'll get engaged with the advisors, like the lawyers, the bankers, and they'll take every single thing that you could possibly want to know about that company. They'll put it into this virtual data room, and then they'll securely permission people in, and then they can track and they can see exactly what's happening with that information. So they can understand who's serious and disclose information progressively over time, and ultimately achieve a good outcome. So the goal is, happy investors, a company that gets a fair price, and then a successful integration at the end. So our focus on that is really the due diligence part. So we bill ourselves as the only SaaS app for due diligence. Our focus and our vision goes beyond that for the whole M&A lifecycle.
So you mentioned SaaS, so software as a service, and that's where you're moving to as a model of delivering your products. But again, I'm not quite sure how long Merrill's been around, but certainly before SaaS was even a thing. Any company that's innovating has got to evolve with the time. So take us back to 2015 when you started. Where was Merrill then, and talk about that journey to becoming a SaaS company?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Merrill, the company's been around for just about 50 years. So it really started off as a financial printer. And that was back in the day when people needed things like a conference room in order to get prepared for an IPO event. So if you're getting ready for an IPO, you draft something called an S1. And the best way to get that done, because you need so many different people from a company to get that done, you literally pack them into a conference room, you lock the door, and you say, hey, you can't come out until you're done. So it could be like 5 days. So the expectations and the needs changed over time. Customers didn't so much need things like those conference room services. They were really looking for more of an efficient electronic way to do things. And that's something I've been passionate about for a very long time. I got involved in this M&A virtual data room before it was a thing back in as far back as 1997 when I ran into someone that was having a real hard time doing M&A deals because they had to pull so many people into what at the time was a physical data room to get things done. The transformation, the catalyst for it, has been changing customer expectations and needs, looking for more of a secure, trusted repository online that's easily accessible that they can pull people into and manage the whole experience. So when I joined, Merrill was a variety of different business lines, some of them big business lines, more of this legacy. There was a new CEO, Rusty Wiley, that came in with a vision for the business. And in a nutshell, his perspective was, customers are looking for SaaS. Let's maximize this part of the business. So we proceeded to divest a number of these different product lines, really to focus what we are now, which is just a pure play software service company. Along the way, I came into a company that was very large and diverse. And the focus that I was given was, hey, establish a vision for us, define a new technology platform for us, something that doesn't just meet our needs now, but will meet our needs in the future. So I was very fortunate to have the backing from Rusty, from the investors in Merrill, and they allowed me to run forward to establish a team, to do a lot of hiring. So I pulled on board people who, a number of people that I've worked with before, they were used to moving very quickly and in a very agile way. And we were successful building a completely new product platform built on top of Pivotal Cloud Foundry. And I'm very proud to say, from that humble beginning, in 2015 when I joined, the idea of what we could be to now we have a proven platform out there, and the vast majority of all of the projects that we do now is on that new Pivotal-based platform. And our customers are giving us rave reviews and really high customer satisfaction scores.
Fantastic. So between 2015 and 2018, obviously a lot happened to get you from there to here. So let's talk about the technology underpinnings of the platform. You mentioned Pivotal Cloud Foundry. Talk about why that's important and what it looks like today in terms of supporting those SaaS applications.
I've been through the whole evolution from software as a service before it was called software as a service. We were struggling to figure out what it was. And what I've seen is the evolution from like a monolithic single tier that's really hard to scale, hard to change, going from single tier to multi-tier, where now you're starting to split out the work and you're having the database do the database type things and an app server do app server type things. But then there was this sort of connection that could happen even in a multi-tier environment like that between business logic and the user interface. So the third generation that I saw was the ripping out of the user interface from the back end and creating a layer of services in between, basically creating an API. So SOAP, or in our case, REST, JSON, that was a huge improvement because now all of a sudden, like the user interface technology, changes on a regular basis. At one point in time, like Flash was the thing. If you wanted like a really robust, user interface experience, through web browser, Flash was pretty much the only way to do it. But now things like the JavaScript frameworks have become so robust that you can do an incredible job with them. So making sure that they're talking to the server and that the server is separated. And then of course, mobile. Everyone has a mobile device now. Smartphones are ubiquitous. So having an ability to take like a native mobile client and to connect it into the same server that you might use to present your website was absolutely critical. The next logical step at Merrill, as we were kind of thinking about, well, what should we do, was microservices, because that's really, my view of the best way to handle complexity in today's world. So what it means to me is you can split, parts of your system into like these swim lanes to make sure that there's isolation. So in the old-fashioned, sort of consolidated monolithic systems, if a reporting job sort of sucked up a lot of database CPU, maybe you impact people that are doing something totally different on the database. That's not good. Now, of course, you could try and engineer around it, but if you keep everything separate within a microservice, from the get-go, you're built with that isolation, you're built with that sort of stability in mind, and all things don't need to scale at the same rate. So if you can split things into these segments, into these microservices, you can scale differently, as appropriate, add more resources where necessary. It keeps the code base small, so the smaller things are, the easier they are to understand, and the more likely that you're going to be able to maintain and support it and grow it over time. So that was initially the catalyst for us. We knew we didn't want to do monolithic. We had monolithic. It was really hard to change. The results of monolithic are things like quarterly release cycles where things are really, really slow. We knew we wanted to do microservices, so then the question was how? And that's where we looked at the state of the art in 2015. And there were several emerging things, but what really stuck out to us was Pivotal Cloud Foundry, because it was robust, it was real, it was working, and not only that, but there was the whole culture and the whole discipline and the approach from Pivotal. So the concept of pair programming, sort of steeped in agility, and for us, consulting engagements like the Pivotal Dojo that helped us to get up to speed very rapidly and become successful quickly.
Right. I know for a lot of large enterprises that I've talked to, it's the cultural and process component that can be more difficult than the technology component. So talk a little bit about that dojo experience. You may have worked with labs, I'm not sure. Talk about how that helped you make some of those cultural transformations. And there are always going to be some people in an organization that are more eager than others to make the transformation. And so there's a lot of different things you have to consider. Talk about how you approach that.
So I'll talk about something that I think will be sort of funny to anyone that's going through this type of change. So many organizations are used to doing things in a waterfall way, or it's sort of Agile. It's waterfall with a patina of Agile. You throw in a couple of things like, we're doing scrums now, and that's Agile. And it's not Agile. So there's a lot more to it than Agile. For us, it's the whole CI/CD pipeline, all of the automation, all of the testing automation, everything that goes along, in the path to deploying applications and to getting them out to production. But the funny part is, like, if you talk to people that have done waterfall before or who are used to waterfall, like key business stakeholders, like for example, for us, people in our sales or in our service team, they're used to this mindset of, if we don't get it into the next release, we are never going to get it. To get them comfortable with the idea of, well, you know what? We're going to do releases literally on a daily basis. So don't be afraid. Just because you don't see that in that release doesn't mean that it's not coming, and it might not be there tomorrow or the next day or whatever. So that was a really big culture shift, changing people's expectations around when they would get content, when they would get new technology based on this platform.
Right, so the idea of a backlog was a foreign concept to them, and that we're working our way through features was not something that was well understood, it sounds like, throughout the organization.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was more of a mindset of, hey, really we have to pack everything in that we can into this release, otherwise it's never going to happen. I mean, when you're used to a really slow release cadence, that's what you kind of get used to.
And you mentioned the dojo. What role did that play? Talk about that experience, if you would.
Getting our whole core engineering team and our whole DevOps team up to speed and understanding what it meant to work with Pivotal and how to create a foundation, kind of crafting and forming the foundation the way that we needed it to be. That's what we got out of the dojo. We got sort of that jump start in terms of our knowledge and what we needed to start to be able to craft and to deliver our application on top of the foundation that Pivotal gives us.
Well, so you mentioned the release cadence. So I think a great way to wrap up is, can you share, where you are today? Maybe you could compare where you were in terms of release cadence compared to 2015 to today, or any other metrics that you think that kind of show some of the progress that you've made, and talk maybe a little bit about where you're hoping to go in the next, say, 6 to 12 months.
What I'd say around our release cadence is, I'll actually use an example of dealing with bug or an issue. I would love to say that we have no bugs or issues. That would be fantastic. But every once in a while, we'll get a bug or an issue. And nothing is as powerful as having a bug or an issue. And in the old days, with our old monolithic and slow release cadence, our service team and our sales team would have to manage customer expectations and say, we understand, your pain, like a fix is coming for that bug. It'll be coming, and manage their expectations. I am so gratified to say that with Pivotal Cloud Foundry and the way that we're working, we are literally able, if something goes wrong, to roll out a fix in hours, which is the difference between one of our customers getting frustrated and angry with a sales and a service person, and that person like having to sort of say, well, we'll get back to you, to today saying, click refresh, which is a massive, massive improvement. So I just use that as an example because our responsiveness relative to what it had been is absolutely off the charts. Now, what's really most important to me is I care the most about understanding our customer needs, what they can easily articulate to us, what their latent needs are. So my focus is really innovating and meeting more customer needs. So already we've seen a massive increase in our business. Our year-over-year revenue growth is very significant, in the double digits, thanks to this new platform. That is all based on our new product line, which is tremendous. But there's a lot more that we can do. So as we look across the whole M&A lifecycle, we know that there are things that we can do before the deal. Today, we work mainly with the sell side. We know that there's a lot that we can do for the buy side. And then we know that there's more that we can do as customers go into integration, and two companies are becoming one, and far beyond that. So the sky's the limit, and now we have that platform upon which we know we can innovate at a rapid cadence and meet those customer needs and deliver success and deliver better outcomes to them, which is ultimately our focus.
Well, Thomas Fredell, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. Thanks a lot.
So much. It's my pleasure.